morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting Australian Indian Radio's weekend special. And what a weekend it is, as you can see outside the window. It's not a very bad day, looking quite good, and the weather is predicted to be quite good, even though there's been storms in some parts. And we saw a little bit of cloud this morning, a little bit of fog in the morning, but apart from that, I think it's going to be a wonderful weekend. So what is the weekend going to look like? Let's take a very, very quick look at the weather forecast for the weekend. So the forecast for the rest of Saturday, maximum 26. Yes, it is warm. Even for my morning walk this morning, it wasn't too bad, and people are back into their summer clothes. So maximum 26, morning fog as we saw. Possible rain about 4 millimeters throughout the day. The chance of rain is that 4 millimeters is coming out of the 30% chance of rain that we have. And Brisbane areas of low cloud, fog and drizzle this morning, partly cloudy with slight 30% chance of shower during the remainder of the day with some light winds. Fire danger is low to moderate, but as I always say, and I will always say this, is that always take precaution around fire because that's something that you don't play with. So it is very, very desirable that always take care. And it's the same goes with sun protection. The sun protection is recommended from now till about 2 p.m. with the UV rating to reach about 5 for today. So that is above the 4 mark, which is probably more a safer 3 to 4. The UV rating will be 5 today. So you do take precaution, regardless of the skin type that you have. Everyone does burn. So, it does cause that problem underneath. Now, because we won't have any show tomorrow, so let's take a look at what tomorrow is going to look like so that you can plan whatever you want to plan under the current circumstances for Sunday. So Sunday, the minimum of 12 and maximum of 20. So a little bit cooler. The maximum today is 26, tomorrow being 20. And a chance of rain tomorrow is 0. So go ahead and plan whatever you may. Light winds becoming westerly. Westerly, of course, is around Eka, and Eka's happening. So have you been to Eka already or not? Well, virtually, I mean. It is online this year. So, log on to the online sessions. There's so many different sessions happening. Log on to the Eka online and take part. And, of course, Channel 7 are partnering with that. There are some pop-up events around for those Sundays and the day good. So, don't miss out on those as well. So, tomorrow it will be sunny, light winds, which will be coming westerly about 20 to 30 kilometers in the morning, then becoming light in the evening. So that's what tomorrow is going to be looking like. And as we know, that around Brisbane, it is a wonderful weather to be out and about at the time. But always take those precautions. Only go to where you are allowed to go, or where you actually really, really need to go, not what you want to go, where it is really needed that, you need to go to the shops to get something, do that. You need to go to but if you can help it, please plan your trip so that, you can do a lot in the one outing, that you are not out there for more than the time that's required. Of course, going to work is something different. And if you are in Victoria, it's different again, because your classification under those stage 4 restrictions is, you need to check all that. Well, so looking at these numbers and where we stand today, Queensland, 1,087 cases with 1,070 recovery with 6 recorded deaths. Australia-wide, the confirmed cases 20,272 with the recovery, which is not bad, is 11,315, and unfortunately 266 deaths. Worldwide, 18 we were talking about yesterday, weren't we? Well, today is 19. So 19.2 million confirmed cases which are reported. There may be others unreported. So the recovery is at 11.6 million and 716,000 deaths throughout the world that's been recorded. So that is the update for the morning. And now just a little bit of general news, as we have all had the tragic case of the Air India crash in Kerala and south of India. It was at an airport which is known for its tabletop runway. As we know, tabletop runway is someone where after you end the runway, there is a drop. So, a tabletop runway, and of course the flight came in on a very, very rainy monsoon season. So let's take a very quick look at that report there. Now, this report is as if when we were compiling the show, and we have received some other news. If I can try and fit it towards the end, I will.
Plane has crashed in India, in the state of Kerala. It's an Air India plane which was travelling from Dubai. Let's bring in Sky reporter Neville Lazarus, who joins us on the phone from Delhi. We have some pictures. It is nighttime there, as you can see, obviously. A little bit difficult to see what's going on there. Neville, what can you tell us about what's possibly happened?
I was saying, yes, this plane was coming from Dubai to land in the Kozhikode airport. It's been raining very heavily in Kerala. We are in the middle of the monsoon season. It landed and it skidded because this airport, the runway is also a tabletop airport, tabletop runway. It skidded and then it broke into a number of pieces. There are you could see on some images of the plane in pieces. There were about 191 passengers and crew on that flight, including some 10 infants. At the moment, evacuation and emergency services are happening at the site. About 30 to 40 people, we have been told, are injured, have been taken to the hospital. According to one of the members of parliament, he's spoken on the phone to an Indian channel saying that one of the pilots has died, but at the moment we cannot confirm it. There are no casualty reports for the moment as rescue operations are still happening. Must remind you that we are in the middle of a very heavy monsoon season. Kerala is experiencing a very heavy rain over the last 24 hours. In fact, in parts of Udiki, 15 people had died today because of landslides, and the situation in terms of the monsoons is still very much prevalent in this region. We will keep an eye on this and bring you more information as and when we get.
And information as and when, and we'll now go to that the other channel which I was talking about, and let's see if we can get some news from there as well. And unfortunately, that's not playing at the moment.
Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha with News Tonight, where we get you the day's biggest news stories from across India and the world. The top story of the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the new national education policy lays the foundation of a new India. He asserted that it aims to transform India's education system from one that laid down what to think into one that emphasizes how to think.
Speaking at the inaugural session of the conclave on transformational reforms in higher education under National Education Policy, Prime Minister Narendra Modi asserted that the new policy will make the youth future ready and suitable for maximum opportunities.
राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 21वीं सदी के भारत की नए भारत की फाउंडेशन तैयार करने वाली है। 21वीं सदी के भारत को हमारे युवाओं और हमारे युवाओं को जिस तरह की एजुकेशन की जरूरत है, जैसी स्किल्स चाहिए, राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति पर इन बातों पर विशेष फोकस है।
The Prime Minister said the national education policy was approved after extensive deliberations over 3 to 4 years and brainstorming over lakhs of suggestions. He added that it is a matter of great satisfaction that after it was unveiled, no region or section has accused the national education policy of any kind of bias. The Prime Minister also pointed out that the NEP reflects the ideals of Guru Rabindranath Tagore that stress education as the basis for a harmonious existence. Talking about the 5+3+3+4 curriculum, Modi said, India's education system needs to keep pace with changing times.
एक नई विश्व व्यवस्था, एक नए रंग रूप और व्यवस्थाओं में बदलाव, एक नई विश्व व्यवस्था खड़ी हो रही है। एक नया ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड भी तय हो रहा है। इसके हिसाब से भारत का एजुकेशन सिस्टम खुद में बदलाव करे, ये भी किया जाना बहुत जरूरी था। स्कूल करिकुलम के 10+2 स्ट्रक्चर से आगे बढ़कर अब 5+3+3+4 करिकुलम का स्ट्रक्चर देना इसी दिशा में एक कदम है। हमें अपने स्टूडेंट्स को ग्लोबल सिटीजन भी बनाना है और इसका भी ध्यान रखना है कि वे ग्लोबल सिटीजन तो बने, लेकिन साथ साथ अपनी जड़ों से भी जुड़े रहें।
Quoting former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam that the purpose of education should be to equip good human beings with skill and expertise, the Prime Minister said the new education policy addresses this responsibility of developing many technology-based content and courses.
अभी तक जो हमारी शिक्षा व्यवस्था है, उसमें what to think, मैं बहुत जिम्मेवारी से बोल रहा हूं, what to think पर फोकस रहा है, जबकि इस शिक्षा नीति में how to think उस पर बल दिया जा रहा है।
The Prime Minister also urged people to work together with determination to implement the national education policy that replaces a 34-year-old education policy. It is aimed at paving the way for transformational reforms in school and higher education systems. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Talking about the COVID-19 situation in the country, coronavirus cases crossed 20 lakh in India after over 60,000 cases were reported in the last 24 hours. Thursday was the 9th straight day when infections rose by more than 50,000. With a recovery rate of 67%, 41,000 lives have been lost so far in India.
COVID-19.
And that's news there from India. India fights COVID-19 with the latest figures. Their highest single-day spike was 62,538 cases. Well, right now, right here in Australia, let's hear from our Prime Minister, as he addresses the National Cabinet.
JobKeeper has been a lifeline to people's livelihoods. It's been a lifeline to businesses. It's been a lifeline for the certainty and assurance that it's provided Australians that I know they've been relying upon in these very difficult months. And as we've seen the outbreak of the Victorian wave and the impact that that's had specifically on Victoria, knowing that JobKeeper is there, knowing that JobKeeper is supporting them, their families, their businesses, their communities, I think comes of great assurance.
Authorised by S. Morrison, Liberal Party, Canberra.
And with that, a great assurance, because, we are talking about JobKeeper, and there have been all these changes which have been made, which we will listen to in a minute and see, what those changes are. So let's go straight to our Treasurer, Joseph Frydenberg, and hear from him about what these proposed changes are.
We're deeply concerned about the economic blow to the national economy, and particularly the Victorian economy, from the coronavirus spread. The reality is, as Treasury have forecast, it will hit the economy by between $10 to $12 billion in the September quarter, and we'll see between 250 and 400,000 Victorian employees either stood down or stood down to 0 hours, or who lose their job as a result of the stage 4 restriction. The Morrison government is committing an additional $15.6 billion to expand the JobKeeper program. Around $13 billion of that will go into Victoria. We'll see hundreds of thousands of more Victorian workers now using the JobKeeper program. We're making two major changes. One is to the business turnover test, the other is to the eligibility employee test. When it comes to the business turnover test, previously, in order to be eligible as a business for the December quarter, you needed to be down in both the June and the September quarters. We're now saying that you need to be just down in the September quarter. This will take into account those businesses that were doing okay through April, May and June, but have obviously been subject to lockdown now. The second change is around the employee eligibility. In order to be eligible for the JobKeeper program, the employee needs to be on the business's books as of the 1st of July. Previously it was the 1st of March, and again this change means more people can access the program, because as businesses were starting to open up, as progress was made on the health front, more employees were coming on the books of businesses. Now, of course, they've been subject to lockdown, so this will allow the JobKeeper program to cover them. Look, our focus has been to have a payment that transitions, remembering that this is a national program, not just benefiting Victorian businesses. It benefits businesses right across the whole country, and in some sectors like aviation and tourism, they'll continue to do it tough well into next year. So we've always believed that at $1,500 it was a significant payment equivalent to the minimum wage. At $1,200 it's about 80% of the minimum wage, and then it steps down to $1,000 in the March quarter.
So as we head from the Treasurer, that the main changes are now they're looking at the downturn in the business in September quarter, not even the previous one, so which is good news. And of course the eligibility criteria for the employees, which was previously the 1st of March, now is 1st of July as well, as long as you meet the other criteria as well. So be very careful on that. So in response to what he had to say, here's what our own Queenslander, Jim Chalmers, the Senate Treasurer, and his response to that announcement.
There have now been 3 versions of JobKeeper in 3 weeks, and still too many people have been left out and left behind. The government has been playing catch-up with JobKeeper instead of thinking ahead when it comes to jobs in our economy. What they announced today is a welcome tweak to JobKeeper, but not a comprehensive plan for jobs. A tweak is not a plan, and it's a plan that is desperately needed here as we go through this recession. We can't have a government continue just to play catch-up when the issues are of such magnitude, the consequences are so dire, the stakes are so high. The government can't afford to continue without a plan, not just to save jobs during this recession, but to create jobs in the recovery as well. We don't want to see more Australians left out and left behind in the recession. We want people to be able to get ahead in the recovery, but that requires the government to come to the table with a plan for jobs. This Morrison government owes it to the almost 400,000 Australians who are expected to lose their jobs between now and Christmas to come up with a plan. A tweak to JobKeeper is not a plan for jobs. It's a plan that's desperately needed.
A tweak is a tweak and a plan is a plan. As they say, people don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan. So as Jim Chalmers was saying there, is that the government needs a plan. But sometimes, under the current circumstances, it is very hard to plan. Given a standard level playing field, yes, you can plan things, but when there is a pandemic, it's very hard to plan. That's my take on it. It's very hard to plan because who knows what's going to happen around the corner, and no one's got a crystal ball on there. But of course, planning has to be long term, and I think I do agree with Jim there on a few of the points that a plan needs to be seen ahead, planned ahead, but not a quick fix and not just a tweak there. So I leave it up to you to see and decide and what you feel about that. Well, right now let's go to Victoria, where the stage 4 restrictions have been put in place, but policing them has become a nightmare and a challenge as people don't always abide by the rules and they don't always do the right thing. So let's join a very tired Daniel Andrews, the Premier of Victoria.
First things first, there are 13,867 cumulative confirmed cases of coronavirus in Victoria. That's 450 new cases since our last update. There have tragically been now 181 people in Victoria pass away because of this global pandemic. That's an increase of 11, so 11 further deaths since I updated you yesterday. One female in her 50s, 2 males in their 70s, 3 males and 3 females in their 80s, and 2 females in their 90s. We of course send our best wishes and our sympathies to the families of each of those 11 Victorians, and the great difficulties that they will be experiencing at the moment are acknowledged. They're in our thoughts and our prayers. 7 of those 11 deaths are connected to aged care settings. There are some 607 Victorians that are in hospital, with 41 of those receiving intensive care. To date, there are 1,527 confirmed cases in healthcare workers. That's 139 more than yesterday. And there are currently 911 healthcare workers who are active cases. Now, I've got an update in relation to ADF and authorised officers from the Department of Health, the door-knocking program that they have been undertaking. I can confirm that the joint ADF Department of Health teams have conducted more than 5,000 home visits since the 22nd of July, when the program began. Yesterday there were 60 joint teams, including 120 ADF personnel, and there'll be more that are arriving over the course of the coming week. That links back to the announcements I made and some of the detail I gave you a few days ago about an additional 500 plus ADF staff coming to join us. Yesterday, for instance, there was those 60 teams. That was at least 120 ADF plus some Department of Health authorised officers. They conducted 1,150 visits. That's the biggest single-day effort since the program began, and that number will only increase as we move beyond simply door-knocking. This started with people we couldn't get in contact with who were positive, and then instead of doing interviews over the phone, we were doing interviews on their doorstep. Then it moved to all positive cases being door-knocked, and then it will progressively move to all close contacts being door-knocked as well. And that'll be random, that'll be repeat door-knocks that are all about making sure people are doing the right thing and that we can provide support and assistance to anybody who needs that. So 1,150.
And as I mentioned that, the big task there is of making sure that people are doing what they're doing. They're going to this extraordinary effort of going door knocking, keeping a tab on people who are supposed to be self-isolating. So that is, again, quite a task there. Well, right now, let's go to South Australia, as I'm trying to get as many areas covered in this segment as possible. So, South Australia Chief Health Officer says she's not worried about the new case that's been reported there.
We do have 2 new cases in South Australia to report, but I am not worried about these cases. They are both people who have returned to Australia on one of the repatriation flights that came into South Australia on the 4th of August. There's a woman in her 20s and a man in his 50s. And they had the test done the day after they arrived on the 5th, and we had a very quick turnaround despite the fact we've had so many tests being done in our state, and we had the result back yesterday afternoon. So both of these people have some mild respiratory symptoms, but they are stable, and so they'll be continued to be looked after in the hotel using our Medi-Hotel model that has been very successful. The individuals are not related and travelled separately, and my understanding is that they don't have any other family members with them. But I have said to people before that we should expect a small number of cases from these repatriation flights, and this is indeed the case today. Now, and I'd just like to emphasise for all South Australians that these are not cases that are causing us concern.
So as you mentioned there, that they are not community-based. So it is a good news that it is one that has been brought in. Now, we all talk about the vaccine, and everyone throughout the world, everyone's been working hard, everyone within the medical field, all the research and development, and everyone, health officials and all the medicine companies have been working very hard trying to find this vaccine or come up with a vaccine, and still there has not been found. But Paul Kelly says that government here is optimistic that COVID-19 vaccine will be found. So let's hear from Paul Kelly.
There is really strong optimism here. We can't promise that there will be a vaccine or when it may occur. We've never had a vaccine for a coronavirus in the world before, but the very best minds in the world are concentrating on this. Many companies, well over 100 different types of vaccine that are in development, and many of those are already in clinical trials in what has been described by some as warp speed. So these things normally take years. It's taking months, even weeks, to get through this. In Australia, we're very prepared, and as the PM has mentioned, those prongs, the things that we're looking at very specifically in relation to research and development and support there, not only for researchers here in Australia, but also through international bilateral and multilateral relationships. We're looking very, very clearly and carefully about purchasing and advanced purchasing options, as well as local manufacturing options. We're looking, of course, at the regulatory aspects to make sure that whatever does become available it works, as well as being of high quality and, of course, being safe. And all of these things are very important in the coming months. But I'm very optimistic that we are well placed here in Australia, not only to contribute to that worldwide effort, but also to benefit from it.
And as he rightfully said, that we are very well placed, and that we should be able to come up with the vaccine in due course. As mentioned, that there was no time limit that was given there. Now, of course, going to the Parliament and looking at the Parliament and our elected members as well. And often people talk about their behaviours in the Parliament itself. And on many times, there are people within the community, there are people working within our team. Sometimes they do get on our nerves. When they do, how should we react? What is the norm? Should you control your emotions? But anyway, I'll take you to the Parliament, as Brad Hazzard has already apologised for his comments he made towards Jodi Mackay in Parliament. Let's see how it unfolded there.
I can only wait. We should all wait with bated breath for you to leave and somebody else to come along and actually contribute in some sensible way to what is a 1 in 100-year pandemic.
The question is, do we or don't we have enough face masks?
You certainly need one. It'll obviously. Would you just be quiet? Just be quiet. Seriously. Oh, for heaven's sakes! You wouldn't fit into. Anyway, no, it'd be nice.
Thank you. The time for the question has expired. Member for
if you raise an issue of relevance now, you are as irrelevant as you will ever be. Seriously, you are clearly irrelevant.
Minister for Health will, and I understand that you're responding to.
Very frustrating and very annoying.
Minister for Health.
So that's the edited version of the heated argument that did take place there. So that is the Parliament, and what should our reactions be there? Well, right now, let's move on and take a very quick look at all the functions and events that are also happening, because we need to cover that as well. So let's take a look at what's happening in and around Brisbane before we do go and take a look at some of the Christ Janmashtami celebrations happening around Brisbane and also in Melbourne. 19th of September, mark your date for that event, and online Hindu Dharma classes from Bal Sanskar. And they also have a function coming up, the Ganesh Chaturthi, which we will talk about in the coming weeks. Of course, the BSK annual Cup. Gurdwara programs have begun, langars are taking place, but please always check before you go. Of course, India Day Fair and the Gala Dinner has been postponed until further notice. Quite a responsible move there, I must say. Indian Support Center, if you are impacted by COVID-19, please do contact and register yourself. Now, mental health matters, national mental health, and these people are doing a wonderful job, and there's so many different virtual seminars and webinars that are happening. Please do, log in, join in, make your contribution, and raise that awareness. It is very important that we do raise that awareness of what's happening in and around the mental health area. As we know, around this time, the COVID-19, there's so many people in businesses and so many families, so many students, everyone here, all these conditions can take a toll on your mental health. So, are you okay? Check with others, keep a tab on your close loved ones and also family and friends. The Mental Awareness Foundation, Mental Health Foundation Australia is doing an amazing job. The newly formed organization, which has got quite a number of ambassadors in all the towns, all the cities as well. So October is the main month, and just keep an eye out for all the events that would be taking place, and there's lots which are happening right now as well. So log on to their website, National Mental Health Month. The latest issue of Brisbane Indian Times is out, so go to your nearest outlet and pick up your copy. Mahaprasad is sponsor at Vishnu Maya Mandir. If you so wish to, please check up our website and you'll find all the details. Vedanta Centre of Sydney's Queensland chapter in Springfield. There's so many online events that are taking place there as well. Please do take part in those as well if you can, because it is wonderful to see that these days you can always join in with virtually and without being physically present at any of these functions. You can actually take part and you can contribute to that as well. Well, as promised, it is Janmashtami. Let's take a look at what's been happening in and around. So a short prayer first.
Achyutam Keshavam Krishna Damodaram Ramanarayanam Janaki Vallabham.
And Krishna Janmashtami, and on the occasion of Krishna Janmashtami, New Zealand's Prime Minister visited the temple there as well. So let's take a very quick look at her visit to Radhakrishna Temple.
Hello, Alan. Hello, how are you doing? I'm good, I'm good. Lovely to see you. Well, it's a week to New Zealand. Everything wasted. We want you to just these things for a roaring victory. Welcome, Prime Minister. This is a temple which is the oldest temple.
पुत्रासो जत्र विकारो भवन्ति मानो मद्यारीरिखतायुर्गन्तोः द्यौ शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगो शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरो खदयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विषवे देवाः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वज्ञो शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः श्री राधा कृष्णादि स्थापित देवताभ्यो नमो नमः चरणकमलयोः मन्त्रपुष्पाञ्जलिं समर्पयामि ॐ जदावतो मा विश्वानि देव समवेतद्दुरितानि पराशुव जदभद्रं तन्न आशुव ॐ जदभद्रं तन्न आशुव
The Prime Minister of the New Zealand at Radha Krishna Mandir on the occasion of Sri Krishna Janmashtami.
And this day is very, very critical part of our temple history. And thank you so much for coming. And God bless you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are. Isn't that a wonderful gesture, as we had seen earlier in the week on 5th of August, that historic day when Bhumi Puja was performed at the Ram Mandir temple site in Ajodhya with Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, and he is New Zealand's Prime Minister visiting the Radha Krishna temple on the occasion of Sri Krishna Janmashtami. Right now, let's go to Victoria, to Melbourne, Sri Sanatan Dharam Sabha of Victoria and their Krishna Janmashtami celebrations. As we know, the final night will be on Tuesday night. Pandit Vimal Sarma ji.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswate Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Adi Purushaya Aparamparaya Namaha. देवियों सज्जनों, श्री सनातन धर्म सोसाइटी विक्टोरिया की ओर से आप सबके प्रति अपना आभार अभिव्यक्ति करते हैं कि आज एक बार फिर आप हमारे साथ भगवान श्री कृष्ण की पावन कथा श्रवण करने के लिए हो लिए हैं। आप श्री सनातन धर्म सोसाइटी विक्टोरिया के फेसबुक पेज पर या
Radhe Radhe, Hare Krishna. And from Victoria, now we go to North McLean and to Vishnu Maya Mandir, Dharam Guru Pandit Tripathi Ji Maharaj.
Om
So Vishnu Maya Mandir, and as we know, there's so many places where Krishna Janmashtami is taking place at this point in time, and under the current circumstances and observing all the restrictions in the rules. So, the numbers are controlled and restrictions have been put in place. Right now, let's go to North Brisbane in the suburb of Boondall, where they have the Gayatri Mandir, one of the first temples here in Brisbane, and let's join Pandit Sandilji, Suresh Sandilji. And that's Gayatri Temple in Boondall, and Praveen Sandilji, Prakash Sandilji there as well. And of course, that the functions are happening every night at most of the temples, but please always check before you go up to the temples to see if you have to register yourself so that you can comply with the numbers that are allowed into the temple at those kind of times, at that point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, I need to say goodbye. It's been wonderful having your company. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and stay tuned for more updates coming your way next week. And for now, stay safe and act responsibly, as they say, and only go out if you really, really had to. Until next time, it's goodbye from me.